Welcome everybody to the beautiful Diamante Farms of Kevin Coleman and Devin Kane. We're really happy and grateful that we can be here. I'm Dinette from HorseGrooms, and we're super excited that we have this first meetup of the season here at Diamante Farms, and that Stübben wants to be the presenting sponsor. I think they have a lot of knowledge, and it's amazing that they want to share that with all of us free, inviting, and an educational evening. I'm just very happy with that, and I'm also very happy that all of you showed up, that so many people are interested in that. And HorseGrooms is all about education and horse welfare and community, and Stübben is yeah, for that as well. And horse welfare is a big thing, so it's a great combination. I'm really grateful for their partnership, and I hope we're going to have a great evening. This is Brett Ehrman. He's COO of Stübben, and he's a master saddler. He has an incredible lot of knowledge, so he's going to teach us tonight about saddle fit and what you as a rider or groom or equestrian should know about proper saddle fit. So I leave it up to you. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Welcome. Thank you, HorseGrooms, for putting all this on in Diamante Farm. I am Stübben. Yes, that's true. But what I'm trying to do here today is not just Stübben. Louder? Yeah, all right. What I'm trying to do is give everybody the basic knowledge to understand problems of saddle fit and to notice them right away so that we can fix problems immediately. The longer it goes, the worse it gets. Then we have vets, we have chiropractors, we have body workers, and the problem gets worse. It's hard for a rider, it's impossible for a rider to be able to see saddle fit. So how many here are grooms? How many people are grooms? Can I get a show of hands of people who are grooms? All right. This is all good knowledge if you're a groom or not a groom, but as a groom, it is very important to be able to notice these things for your rider, see them, and be able to communicate that to whoever your saddle fitter is to get the problem ahead of time. Basic saddle fit of what I'm teaching now, we'll have some more clinics going later. One will be an anatomy and biomechanics one, which gets much deeper into muscles, biomechanics, all those different things. What I'm trying to do here tonight, though, is to just give you the very basics of, hey, I see this is a problem. This means something's going wrong. If we do that, and we're all trying to better our horses, the better the horse moves, the better the results are, right? The best rider in the world can ride in a horrible fitting saddle, and it's going to be a better situation than a horse with a horrible fitting saddle. They put up with a lot for all of us, for sure. They push through, they do it, but if they were more comfortable, you could get so much more results out of them. So it's really, as grooms, in my opinion, your job to be able to see these things and say, hey, I think something's going on, and get ahead of it ahead of time. One thing to remember that I want to make sure everybody knows as we talk about this, saddle fitting is one part of it. It takes a team to make everything works. There's saddles, there's bitting, there's girths, there's bridles. There's all of these different parts, and it's important when we have a problem that's going on that we don't throw everything at it at one time, right? Like science is about having a baseline and changing one thing at a time. And so for what we're trying to do as horse people, if there's an issue, let's change one thing at a time and go, okay, is it this? Is it that? For us, anatomy is everything. So what we're trying to do as saddle fitting is we're trying to distribute the rider's weight over the proper muscles evenly. That's it. It's as simple as that. It's complicated because with horses, with riders, there's so many variables that changes everything. And so if we just try to keep it as simple as the things that we're going to go over, you'll know something's wrong. Let's try to fix it. What we're going to talk about now, I'm sure there are some dressage people here. I'm sure there are some jumper people here, maybe some hunter, eventers, I don't know. But This is the same for all disciplines. It is basic what saddle fitting is. So I really am going to try to keep this very simple. Yes. What's that? No, no. People think that, and I would say that in discipline, dressage riders focus more on it, yes. But having said that, with that, jumpers they're going over jumps and coming down hard. So certainly I think dressage riders notice it more, maybe because you're down in it and you feel the little things that are off. But this is throughout all disciplines very important. And unfortunately, in our industry, there's a lot of, there's no standard of information, right? I'm sitting here, you see my Stübben hat, and you may be sitting here going, oh, this is guy Stübben, and he's just trying to, there's so much information. There's no real standard. There's no school that you can go to that teaches these things, which is what makes it very hard. And so making sure that we go off of knowledge, scientific facts and bases of what's going on is what's going to help us get there, realistically. We have, what's this horse's name? Lyle. Lion. Looks like a lion. We have Lion here. So the first thing that I want to show you is just really basic anatomy. And again, we're going to have another one of these that goes deep into anatomy. I'm not going deep into anatomy. We only have so much time, but I want to go over the very basic things that we should know about the horse. Yeah, bring them this way a little bit maybe. Yeah, can you bring them back just one more turn around here? Yeah, perfect. So when we talk about saddle fit, one thing that we all need to remember is, and we hear this a lot as saddle fitters, I have a big wide horse. I have a big shouldered horse. I have all these different things. The shoulder, the scapula, is not where the saddle sits, right? So your horse can be a huge tank in the shoulders and the hind and everywhere else. But when we talk about tree size with a saddle, we're only talking about one small area right here. And so the entire horse can be a tank. But when we talk about where the actual tree points are, they may be narrower. Or vice versa, you may have a more narrow looking horse, chested or barreled, but here they could be wider. So to get into the basic anatomy, first thing that we should know is the spine is actually down in here. The rib cage comes up and meets the actual vertebrae where the spine is. And then you have what's coming up here, which is the spinous process. The spinous process and the ribs, where they meet, create a 90-degree angle, basically. And what lays right here is the top line, or the longissimus muscle. The longissimus muscle is the longest muscle in the body. It's a Latin word. And it is the muscle that carries the rider's weight. And so the longissimus comes from all the way back here into the hind, all the way up, and then up under the shoulder down here. This is what is carrying your weight. This is what is the most important for the saddle. So to go through the basic anatomy is rib cage, right? We find the 18th rib. It's easy to find down here. You'll never find it up here because you have that big, thick muscle. 18th rib comes down here, and it doesn't come straight up. It comes up here, and I've debated chalking. I'm not going to chalk tonight because, like I said, we're going to do a whole anatomy thing. So I wanted to just kind of do basic. But you can find the 18th rib, and it comes up into an angle, and it meets down in here under the longissimus to the vertebrae where the spinous process comes up. Down the spinous process, on either side of it, you have a ligament that runs down on either side, right at the top of it. That is definitely something that you do not want to be on. We never want to be touching that. It needs to be this many hands, this channel, all those things. All horses are different. The bottom line when we talk about channel width is we never want to touch where that ligament runs down. And I explain it to people, you actually want to be as close to that as possible without being on the ligament. And I explain it to people as your body, right? If I run down, Kevin, you don't mind if I touch you, do you? Go ahead. So his spine runs down here. If I run my knuckle close to that, he goes, thank you for giving me a massage. If I come out here, where it's the same muscle, and I rub down here, he says, why did you just do that to me? So to find the longissimus on a horse, it's easy to do back here. You come down, and you'll feel it drop off. It's right here. That's the longissimus. That's where we want those panels to be. If we start coming out here, we're now putting weight off of that longissimus onto where there is no muscle, and it's very uncomfortable for the horse. So we're trying to put our weight on this muscle. This horse, every horse is different. This horse's spinous process is very narrow. It's that wide. So a channel that wide for this horse is fine, as long as the saddle fits and then it's not moving, which we'll get into here in a little bit. So we have the longissimus that comes up. Here we have the scapula. The scapula obviously is not a ball joint. It's attached through ligaments and muscles. This rotates with the horse. It doesn't move like this, but it does rotate. The corner of that scapula, there's a cartilage that's on the edge of every scapula, is right here. This is the corner. Here, in this angle, this triangle, if we followed where I said the longissimus comes up and then comes down under the scapula, this is the trapezius muscle. Yes. Perfect. Good boy, Lion. This trapezius muscle is not a weight-bearing muscle. Everybody can hear me better now? All right, perfect. We don't want weight on this. Most horses, and you guys can go back to your barns and you can do this check, and I'm going to show you how to palpate a horse's back in a minute. Most horses, when I see them sore, it's right here. It's right at the base of the wither, at the back of the trapezius, because the trapezius is a connecting muscle. It's not a weight-bearing muscle. And a lot of times we're putting all of our pressure right here, and it's what makes them uncomfortable. And it's hard for them to round and come up and use their core because they're sore there, because they're trying to get away from it. So we have our scapula, which obviously comes down. Again, I have to check myself and not get too deep into the things. We only have a certain amount of time. We have our scapula. We have the withers. The withers are nothing but spinous process that are longer than the spinous process that come back here. Some horses have high withers, some horses don't. Some horses have longer withers. That's all individual anatomy to each individual horse. So when we're talking about saddles and what they're supposed to do, they're supposed to be distributing the weight evenly, your weight evenly on the horse's back, putting you in the center of gravity for the horse so they're best to carry your weight, for you to be in motion, not behind the motion or in front of the motion. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Again, it gets very complicated with everything else. The only other thing that I really want to get into with anatomy is a nerve bundle, which many people don't know about, and I'll probably be able to get it. You can generally get it maybe one time. A lot of nerves connect right here where the girth goes, especially for dressage people. And when you watch me do this, you're going to see him flinch. And that is where the nerve bundle is. And for dressage, it's very important that our buckles of the girth are not on that nerve bundle. Let's see where we can get it. Right there. See that? See how he's flinching right here? So it's important we don't have our girths here. He's very good at showing it. He's a ticklish horse. But right there, you get it. So the girth buckles need to be higher than that, or you're just constantly giving an irritation. Yes. So it would depend if your dressage flaps here and the nerve bundle's here, it's better to be below it. right? Like if it, so it just depends, as long as we're not on it with what makes sense. So the next thing I want to do is show you how to palpate a horse's back. This is not, I'm not a vet, foolproof, I'm not. There's deeper palpations that you can do, but everybody can do this simple palpation. And especially here in Florida, horses that are coming from Vermont to Wellington, they're going to change. It's going to happen. We hit show season in Vermont. They're running up and down hills in the summertime, lush grass. They're doing totally different things. Then we're coming down to Wellington. We're showing all the time. A horse is going to change. Feeding regimen changes. Training, barns, all these things have changes. And so it's just really good horsemanship, especially as grooms for you guys. Before and after the rider gets on, you just do a quick palpation. You can jump on top of something before it gets too late. It's quicker than picking the feet, or maybe the same amount of time once you know how to do it. And other people can come and palpate your horse, but they don't know your horse. You know your horse. So if you know how to do it, you're going to be better than I am, because I don't know how stoic that horse is. I don't know all those different things. So palpation is very simple. The first thing that you want to do, scapula. You want to make sure that you are feeling forward into the scapula, so you can feel that scapular cartilage, and make sure there's nothing, because sometimes they can be sound here, but they have an issue going forward. And so I'm actually curving my fingers and bringing them forward into the scapula. I start lighter and go deeper. This kind of stuff does nothing. We are trying to feel for deep muscle. That's all very sound. The tree points of the saddle are going right behind the scapula. So again, I'm going to start all the way from the top. I start light, and then I go deeper.
He likes it.
Exactly. See? She's happy, and that's the reaction you should get. I like to come on the other side and give a little bit of a pull on that trapezius to make sure there's nothing going on there and make sure there's no reaction. It's important to know that flicking of a muscle or ears or tail swishes, you know your horse is better than us as saddle fitters. And for us, if I feel that it's a little bit ticklish, then I can come here and I can see this horse is ticklish, right? Like he flinches. That's not soreness. So what I'm looking for is a horse to go, oh, please don't do that. I'm looking for a reaction of, ow, I'm moving away from you. The next thing you do is you run down that ligament. This is more important maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. Everybody's channels now in their saddles are wide. In my opinion, many are too wide. We've gone over exaggerating with it, but you don't put a lot of pressure when you're running right down the spinous process on that ligament. You just want to make sure there's nothing major with lighter pressure. Then I like to go all the way down the longissimus muscle off of the trapezius, right down, close to the spine, and I start with a bit lighter pressure. Then you work your way out the longissimus, and then you do it again with deeper pressure. And again, you can see I'm putting my weight into this horse. Very happy. No reaction. Everything here is good. And then you do it on the other side. I can literally do this in 15 seconds. It's very simple, and I cannot stress enough how important it is to do this, especially new saddle, new training, just came down from up north, whatever it is, just do a quick palpation on both sides. If we do this and then we find something, then we can right away go, oh, there's a problem here. I need to call somebody, and I need to find out what's going on. So that's basic palpation. Again, you do it on the opposite side, and that's all it is. Yes. Yes, one side at a time, because if you're doing both, then which side is it, right? Like, let's see if I get this reaction on this side and I get that reaction on that side. Asymmetry, listen, every single horse is asymmetrical. We're trying for them not to be, but every one of you and me Everyone here is asymmetrical. Nobody is perfectly symmetrical. It's not possible. It's just not the way life is. So everything has a little bit of asymmetry, and we'll get into that a little bit here, but you definitely want to do one side and then the other side. This is a saddle tree. There are some brands that have treeless saddles, a few, but pretty much every brand has a saddle tree. Different brands have different trees and have different reasons for their different trees. It is important, if you are interested in this, to talk to them about their tree and ask them what their tree does and why. But there are basic things that every tree is supposed to do. A tree is like the chassis of a car, right? This is the frame. This is what's making, this is the heart of everything. The saddle tree, when we talk about the area right behind the scapula, what we're trying to do is we're trying to match the angle of these tree points to the angle of the horse's back. That's what we're trying to do. It's as simple as that. If you have the saddle too wide, you're going to be putting more pressure at the top. If you have the saddle too narrow, you're going to have more pressure at the bottom of the tree point. Tree length, tree point length is very important. Every single brand has different lengths. And when it comes to tree sizes, they are not one-to-one through brands. So if a brand says a 32, what a 32 actually means, that's one number in a formula for an angle. It is the measurement straight across from here to here. But if the top of the tree point starts in closer or starts out wider, or if that tree point is a little longer or a little shorter, that 32 means nothing from brand to brand. So don't think that, oh, a 32 and this is a 32 in that. It's very brand specific, because this one right here happens to be a 31, I think. A 31. If that tree point was just a little bit longer, it would be a 34 or a 36. So tree point length is very important. The tree, if I put it on the horse's back, obviously there would be panel in between. But what we want is, you can see these tree points to be getting the weight down here, not in that triangle right there on the trapezius muscle. There are, I would say 90% of horses are very easy to fit, to be completely honest with you. They are. As long as you have a good brand and you have a good fitter and they're doing the proper things. The problem is there's 10% that are tough and then there's 3% that are really, really hard. And so everybody feels like, oh, my horse is so hard to fit. Sometimes it's not that hard to fit, but we've gotten down these rabbit holes where you start focusing on things and you start getting into different issues. So what the tree should be doing is being balanced properly, right? So if I look at this tree, if this is balanced like this, all of the weight is going to go to the front of the tree. It's going to put the rider forward, and maybe they're in a chair seat because they're fighting it, right? Subconsciously, they're sitting back in a chair seat because the tree is throwing them forward. If the saddle's sitting like this, all the weight is going to be going to the back. And that's for every single brand. Our tree is a spring tree. It's a little bit different from other trees, but it doesn't matter. The balance has to be right. If the balance is wrong, the saddle does not fit that horse. They are putting more pressure in the front or in the back. That's 100% of the time. So it should be distributing the weight. So if you have anything here or anything here, the tree point should be coming here. Here's panel. So the panel is the second part that affects the horse. Flaps do not affect the fit of the horse. The flaps are for the rider. A lot of times people will see the flap for jumpers and it's up on the shoulder and you're going, hey, that's tight, that's on the shoulder. Well, if we're riding in a short iron, the flap has to be on the shoulder or we're putting the saddle too far back. So that's like the tongue of a shoe. That should be flexible. That's not going to hurt the horse at all if the flap is on the scapula. Obviously, dressage is different because the flap is straight, so it's coming straight down. So the tree has to be matching the angle of the horse's back, and the panels are the second part of this, which is the part that is helping you balance it. Because maybe the tree points match this perfectly, but the horse is uphill or downhill. And so then you don't have the balance right. So we're matching nicely here, but it's sitting like this. And so no matter what, even though it's matching, we're creating problems and we're going to be sore here. We're good. Thank you. We're good with this one. One thing that I would say that as saddle fitters, and she gave me an introduction. I've been fitting horses for 25 years. I know how to build saddles. It's been my life, is fitting horses. One thing that is hard as a saddle fitter is I go out and do a fitting and I put a saddle on that does not fit, and I know that it does not fit, but the rider's on and the trainer's there and the owner's there, or whoever's there, and everybody's going, look at that horse. Look at how he's moving. I haven't seen him move like this ever. I want that saddle. Doesn't mean that saddle fits. It means he's probably been uncomfortable up front. Now we put all the weight in the back, and for that specific ride, the horse is moving amazingly. But you're going to get the saddle, you're going to ride in it for 2 months, and then the horse is going to be sore in the back. And so for us, and I'll get into this a little bit later, it's how I want to end. As saddle fitters, we come in at the worst times. Their friend just went out in the paddock and it's pasture time, and they're supposed to be out there. It's feed time. It's breeding season. It's whatever. Horses are creatures of habit. They have their day. They wake up, or not wake up, but they start their day. They eat, whatever their process is. When you take them out of it, you're changing that pattern. And on top of that, as a saddle fitter, some horses, the first saddle that we put on them, they're like, okay, it's work time, let's go. And then you put another saddle on, and they're like, okay. And then you put the third saddle on, and they're acting up. And your instinct is they don't like this saddle. It may not be they don't like that saddle. It may just be they're over it. What are we doing? I'm supposed to work and go back. And then there are other horses where they, at the beginning, it's feed time, they're weird. But then by the third saddle, they're going, okay, I see what we're doing. Everything's fine. And then we move forward. So it's important for you to talk to your saddle fitter about how the horse normally behaves, but don't hold on to that as being the number one thing that's going on. Now, I know in this industry, a lot of people have been burnt by a lot of saddle fitters. I know a lot of people have been burnt by situations that have been hard, and that's unfortunate. But if you have a good saddle fitter and they know what they're doing, they know these things. And it's important for you guys to ask your saddle fitters questions. And if they don't have answers for you and they're making things up, that's a problem. If they don't have answers for you and they go, I don't know, but I'm going to call somebody that knows, that's okay. That's an acceptable thing, because me, who's been doing this for 25 years, I can build a saddle beginning to end. There are times where I don't know. I will find the answer. I don't need to call anybody, but I'm learning every day. Every day I'm learning new things. And I think it's important that we all know that and understand that as we're going through. The biggest things that you can look for is, when we're looking for this, again, keeping it with very basic, is A, we already talked about it, balance. If it's not balanced, it's not right. Just because it is balanced doesn't mean it is right, but if it's not balanced, it's not right. B is movement of the saddle. So a brand new saddle that's never been ridden, it's not going to, there can be a little bit of movement, and hopefully we'll see some things as we talk about this. I've never fit this horse. I don't know. We're doing this all in the raw, which is how I like to do things. But if you ever see the back of a saddle following the rider up, it doesn't fit. It's as simple as that. If you ever see a saddle in the back kind of, so I say it one of two ways. One, when they come up and they post and the saddle's following their butt, that's a problem. The other one that you'll see is where it doesn't even want to sit, and then when they come down, it's coming down on the horse. That's a problem. That means we're creating a pressure point, a fulcrum somewhere where we're not distributing that evenly. There's more pressure somewhere that is creating that movement from the saddle from keeping it nice and sound on the horse's back. Now again, a brand new saddle on a horse, if we have a brand new demo here, we may see a little bit because it hasn't broken in, but it won't be this or this. One thing I should talk about is wool versus foam. I'm a wool person through and through. I know there's a lot of arguments for foam, but wool for me is the only way to go. Communication to the horse. You can change it. You can manipulate it for the horse. And the misconception that if you have foam, you need to have somebody come out every 3 months and change it is just not true. Now, we have a lot of grooms here, and we have a lot of people who have a lot of different horses. Guess what? There are going to be times where pads are your answer. That's life. And we can do that, and we're going to get into pads after we do this whole thing. Yes. Mm-hmm. Sure. Sure. So yep. So certainly you have the tree, which is what we talked about, which is the chassis, right? If your tree is here and your panel comes out to here, there's nothing to distribute weight out here because it's soft, it's leather, it's wool, or it's foam. So you can take that panel, girth down, rider in it, and you can grab it and you can move it. It's not distributing any weight. And if especially dressage, because you're dressage, when we have a channel this wide and then we have panels this wide, we're basically putting this much on the longissimus. Then we have a bunch of panel that's sitting out on the rib cage that isn't even really distributing any weight. Ideally, you want that to be as close to that spinous process. I would say a finger on each side, right there. Just imagine carrying something on your back, right? You want it here in the center of that solid muscle. You don't want to carry it out here. That's going to be uncomfortable. You want to carry it here on that muscle, more so for the horse. So, but foam's fine. Yeah. Wool is better for me. You can make your own decisions. Foam is what it is. So one thing to know about saddle fitting is this, and I will say this without any problems of saying it. If you have a saddle fitter come out and they do a wither tracing or they fit your horse without watching you ride, you should be very, very suspect. I can put the worst fitting saddle on a horse's back. You should be very suspectful of what's happening. I can put the worst fitting saddle on a horse's back and leave it in cross ties for an hour without riding. And it doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt the horse. It doesn't matter. It's just sitting there. A horse's back in cross ties is nothing to do with what his back is. Walk, trot, counter, pee off, jump, whatever it is. That back changes as the weight is in it and you're riding and they're moving. So if you are just fitting a horse by setting a saddle on and going, yes, this looks good, what are we doing? You have to ride in that saddle. And the fit of the horse affects the fit of the rider. The fit of the rider affects the fit of the horse. If the rider is in too small of a saddle and they have more weight on the back of the tree, it's not distributing the weight as well because we're putting weight on the back of the tree. If the flap is too small for the rider, so they're pushing back into the back of the saddle, we're now not distributing the weight by being in the center of the tree. If the saddle doesn't fit the horse, the rider is going to feel like they're in a chair seat or they're pitched forward. So saddle fitting is that marriage between the horse and the rider, and the saddle is the one in the middle that's making it happen. For me, the best situation is someone doesn't even notice a saddle when they're riding in it. That's all I want, right? We're trying to ride. We're trying to think about what we're doing. So if you're not thinking about the saddle, we won. Simple as that. If you're thinking about the saddle, then something's not happening properly. So number one is balance. Number two is saddle movement, which we just talked about. So we're going to do some riding. Devin's going to be nice enough to ride for us here. And again, I have no clue what this saddle is. I mean, what this horse is. I have no clue what fits it, but we're going to do a little bit of a fitting right here. When I'm doing a saddle fitting, yes, I look at how the horse moves, but I have to rely on you for that because I don't know this horse. So I am looking at the two things that I just talked about: balance, movement, and then feeling. I go in, you have to go in and you have to feel what's going on within the panels. The one thing that I hadn't mentioned yet is wither clearance. Wither clearance is extremely important. You have to have wither clearance. Wither clearance doesn't mean that it needs to be this high off the wither by any means. It means it doesn't touch the wither ever. And that's not just sitting with it on. It means when the rider's riding, turning, jumping, we should never touch the wither. No, you're good for right now. Just kind of warm up a little bit and get comfortable. And so from the beginning right now, and again, this I can't express enough for you grooms. The rider never sees this. You guys see this, right? You're putting it on. You're seeing these things. So just look, keep an eye out for the stuff that we're talking about: movement, balance. The most important gait when we're talking about balance is the trot. For most horses, standing, right? Belly's hanging a bit. As we walk, the back comes up. As we trot, the back comes up. As we canter, as the horse engages its core more, uses its hind more, you watch the back of the saddle rise more and more. So we need to see it in all the gaits, but obviously you're not going to have that perfect balance in every single gait. So the trot is the gait, A, that we spend the most of the time in when we're training. Trot is what we spend a lot of time in. And B, that's the one that's kind of in the middle of walk and canter. It's the center of it. All right, so right now what I'm looking at, and I know it's hard for everybody, I'm not looking at the horse at all. I'm strictly looking at the saddle and what it's doing. That's all I'm looking at. I'm trying to see, is this saddle sitting balanced? And is the saddle sitting nice and sound on the horse's back? And the back of the saddle is balance-wise, so balance is tough, okay? Even within our model, some saddles should be pommel to cantle level. The cantle should be higher. But when you look at a saddle sitting on a horse's back, the sweet spot, you can normally see it. It's generally, for most brands, the back of the flap is about where that kind of center is. So if I look at this saddle and I look at this balance, on this particular saddle, the saddle should be a little bit higher, about inch and a half higher than the pommel. I have that, if not a little bit higher in the back. But what I also have is the saddle looks like it's kind of hovering a little bit, right? Does everybody see that? Do we see how when she comes by here in the trot, it's kind of, the back of that saddle is not making contact. It means it doesn't fit. It means right now the pressure is more on the front of the tree than it is on the back of the tree. I wish I could tell you that means that this is a medium and now you need a Y, but that's not how these things work. But what we know is it's definitely not fitting. There's not the right pressure because it is hovering up front. I know what's going on, but we'll put some other saddles on so that we can see what happens. So again, when you're trying to figure out the balance and you're trying to figure out not having movement, one thing that you could say is, well, because the back might even be a little bit higher than it needs to be, that means we need to go narrower, because if you go narrower, it brings the front up. But that's not always necessarily true because the panels play such a big role. One of the reasons why I like wool flocking. You can have the right tree size, but because the horse is croup high, you don't have the right balance. And there's no way to fix that with foam. I guess you can have thicker foams with the companies that do thicker foams, or you use pads. But there's no way to be able to change that, where if you have wool, you can say, okay, well, the tree size is this, but I can just put more wool in there because wool can change the balance a lot. All right, let's hop off and let's put the 29 on. Look at this saddle before the rider's even on. Do we see how the back just already doesn't even want to make contact, right? It wants to kind of just sit up automatically. The first saddle we put on, this is Stübben terms, but I can use it in other terms. I'll do it this way. The first saddle was narrow. That saddle was medium. This saddle's wide. For us, it was 27, 29, 31. We're more exact than narrow, medium, wide. We have 7 different tree sizes, but 27s are narrowest. The 29, 2 centimeters wider, and this one's a 31, which is 2 centimeters wider. So if I went, the pad's hiding a little bit. If I went behind right there, I can stick my hand right under that. If I put my hand under there, I could stick my hand right under. It's hard to see it a little bit from the pad. That saddle is just doing this. See how from the back? Sure, sure. Yep, good idea. So, unfortunately, with this horse, you didn't see any major things. When I go out, we were just at Barnes today watching horses, and I'm not seeing anything crazy with this, so maybe it wasn't the perfect example, but I think we can see it, right? Like everybody can see that. None of the saddles that I put on were perfect for this horse, but the middle one that I put on with a little bit of flocking would be perfect. And I can say this too, me and 2 of my best saddle fitters could all fit a horse. Depending on the horse, we may all fit it a little bit differently. With Stübben, at least, we do centimeter increments. That's a half a centimeter on each side in the change of the channel of the tree points. Maybe I go a little bit wider and I put a little extra wool here or there, and they want to go a little narrow a little bit here or there. Some horses, there's one recipe for it, for sure, that happens. But again, with what we're talking about here, we're talking about grooms, professional circuit. We're talking about stuff where we have to make things work. So now where we're going to start getting into pads. She said, look, he's acting funny, right? Like, she's acting, I think, what did you say, careful? I think, what was the word? I think you're like, she's acting careful, I think is what you said.
At the beginning, and then trotting, she was like flat,
Yeah.
moving, like trying to find a balance. It was funny.
The other thing to make sure too is, as we're looking at these things, I'll show you right now, we're going to show you 2 things. Tree points belong behind the scapula, not on it. I don't know how many times I go to a barn and you put the saddle up there. It ends up sliding back anyway. It's supposed to be behind. That's the point. The point of the tree points is every horse is something from this to this, right? Maybe it's a narrow horse and it's this to this. Maybe it's a wide horse and it's this to this. But every horse is narrower right behind the scapula to wider as you go down the longissimus muscle. And the tree points, the purpose of them is to put that saddle in the right place so you can sit here at the center of gravity where the horse can carry your weight the best. If you're sitting back here, they're struggling. If you're sitting up here, they're struggling. This is where our weight, if you were to ride bareback, where would you sit? You would sit right here. You wouldn't sit here, and you wouldn't sit back here. You're going to sit here where it's natural to be. That's the purpose of a saddle and a tree. So make sure we put those tree points behind the scapula.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah. So if you can just see right here, when I do this, I'm putting pressure on this pommel. There's nothing there. And it's because it's too wide, so the bottom of the tree points aren't making any purchase, so the saddle's just rocking. If I feel right here where the tree points are, at the top of this panel, if I push down, I can't get my hand under it. If I go to the bottom of the tree point, whoop, whoop, it's under there. There's nothing. Tree points, you can find this pocket right here. That's how you know the tree point. Jumping flap, dressage flap, it doesn't matter. A jumping flap, the flap will come up here. That's the tree point. And for me and for the anatomy people and the vets and the people I work with, we don't want this to be short. We want this to be long. The reason we want it to be long is you can see that tree point is sitting here. Many saddles, the tree point stops basically right under the stirrup bar, which means we can't put anything lower than there. And so we're putting everything on this trapezius. And so when you go, after we talk about this, go palpate horses and feel. And if you see how this horse has no reaction, it's good. If you do this and the horse drops down, it's probably a short tree point, probably.
Horses that are
Too sensitive, as in?
Too sensitive when palpating?
Yeah, they shouldn't be sensitive. I mean, horses are sensitive. Look, I've known a mare, when you put her blanket on her, she acted like you were killing her and tried to bite you, right? Like there are sensitive horses that are going to be more reactive. And let's be honest about this too. If you have a beautiful rider that weighs 90 pounds, the chances of them hurting a horse's back are slim, right? Like if we have a beginning rider who doesn't have core muscles, they're more likely to make the horse sore, right? That's just a part of all this. But as far as sensitive, when you say sensitive as in you do this and drops down, that's a problem. There's something going on that can be better.
But if you have one that is just very sensitive to touch in general,
only the skin and
so
just touch.
sure. So when you have one that's very sensitive to touch in general, that's where you repeat the process.
Correct.
Over and over.
Go exactly. If you're palpating, like when you're palpating, right? Like go here and go here and do things and see, is this just you being sensitive and overreactive, or is this actually something? And that's why when I do that, I'll come through here, and then I'll come up on their shoulder and I'll just rub different muscles and kind of get me used to me touching them, and then go back to it and see if I get that certain reaction. And the one other thing that I didn't mention before is this too. Horses can be sore from saddle fit, places where the saddle does not sit. That is possible. But they will be sensitive where the saddle sits. All of our muscles are connected. So without a doubt, you can have a horse that's sore back here in the lumbar, but they're going to be sore here too, right? Like it's not going to be just sore here. And we have to always look at, and when you're working with your people, I think this is very important. When you're working with body workers, chiropractors, vets, farriers, saddle fitters, all the people we have involved, you need to have a good team of open-minded people that aren't scared to say, I want to learn, let's all talk, and let's figure things out. I've made mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. I've been doing it forever. It happens. It's life. This is every horse is individual. Every rider is individual. We're all going to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. Just because if you guys go back and you palpate the horses and they're sore, it doesn't mean that you're doing a bad job. We just all need to go, how can we be better? What are the next steps that we can do to learn, to work as a community, to do the best that we can for these amazing animals that we ask so much of every single day, and they do. So, yeah, I mean, the sensitive horses, there are some. Chestnut mares, I'll say it. They're more sensitive. It is what it is. You get some of these draft crosses, they'll never say a thing to you. You know, it just all depends on the horse. So, briefly, I will just get into pads. We have to use pads. Nope, we don't need the horse. She can go to bed. Now, let's do this part here, and then we'll go up. I am a firm believer in natural materials. I don't ever talk bad about any company. I think companies are trying to do things. They're trying to do things right. If you put something on a horse's back that does not breathe, it's not good. If you put rubber socks on and go run 5 miles, you're going to get cramps in your feet. It's as simple as that. Because the whole point why we wear cotton and wool and all these things ourselves is the same reason why I like wool in the panels, but at least have sheepskin natural materials. Rubber, air, gel, you are just trapping heat on the muscles. It can't absorb the sweat. It can't draw the heat out, and you are much more likely to have soreness. I'm a very firm believer, natural, sheepskin. The other thing people don't like to hear in the US, and especially you guys as grooms, sheepskin should be on the horse. If you go other places, our pad guy, it blew his mind that I was telling him we need a sheepskin half pad that goes on a cotton pad. He's going, why isn't the sheepskin on the horse? The sheepskin is great for the horse. It's a pain in the butt to clean, so I get that side of it, but realistically, as long as it's cotton, sheepskin, stick with that. So what can a pad not do? A pad can correct balance. So if we have a good tree size and we put a pad on because it's low in the front and it lifts the front up, excellent. That's doing something good. If the tree size fits the horse and it's low in the back because they're a little, croup low, a little high up front, and we put on something in the back with shims, that's good. If we have a saddle that is too narrow or too wide and we put a pad on it, here's the horse's back, here's the tree point, it's too wide. We put more thickness in there. All we're doing is we're putting more here, and this isn't doing anything out here. So pads are what we're doing. It's a part of life. Making sure its balance is getting 90% of the problem. So if we're talking about these are our sale horses, these are our run-through horses, sure, put on the pads, make it balance, it's good. Palpate, make sure we're not getting sore, and that's fine. If it's a one saddle for a one horse, pads can't fix all the problems. The other thing that I'll let everybody know about pads too is every time you put a pad on the horse, you change the balance in the front to raise it. So non-shim pad, just a normal half pad, will raise the front of the saddle more than the back of the saddle. And the reason is that the back of the horse, like we talked about, is flat. So you're raising one thickness. Let's just, for easy numbers, 1 inch thick pad. The back is going to be raised 1 inch. On the front where you have your tree points, you're putting 1 inch here and 1 inch here. So you're going to raise it more. So if you put 1 pad, 2 pad, 3 pads, 4 pads, you will watch the balance of the saddle in the front go higher, higher, higher. So shim pads are your friend. We need them. We use them all the time. Absolutely. But just know, basically, if you put a really thick pad on, if you don't have a shimmable pad that puts shims in the back, you are going to raise the front of the saddle more than you're going to raise the back of the saddle. And it's just because you're putting 2 thicknesses on the side as opposed to 1 on the front. Keep it natural, please. Try to use natural materials with the pads. I know it's a battle for me, and I talk to people about it all the time. Everybody has the things they like. And I'm not trying to change everybody's minds here. Again, I just wanted to try to give you guys some kind of education on all this stuff. The last thing I'll say, and then we'll just hang out. And if you have more specific questions, we're here. I'm here. Lindsay here. Miranda's here. When you have a problem, when you talk to your fitter, try to give them some of the information that we talked to about tonight. Because if they're a good fitter saying, hey, the saddle is, when they're riding, is sticking way up off the horse's back, that's something that we can work with. Oh, okay, that's something. If you say, hey, the horse doesn't like the saddle, that's a hard thing to work with. That's fine. Maybe the horse doesn't like the saddle, but that's not. Try to give them as much information before they come out to talk to you so they can be prepared with the tools that they bring to try to fix the problem or help the problem out. Thank you all very much for coming. Hopefully we got something from it.
We're here hanging out. So
And we're here, so if you want to ask more questions, we're here.
more pizza,
Yes. Thank you all very much.